This week on Screentime, we blast off with Elton John and his blockbuster biopic Rocketman. Plus, delve into the world of artists, communists, and Nazis in the Oscar-nominated German epic Never Look Away. And find out if a jailbird mother of two who loves country and western can find her way from the UK to Nashville in Wild Rose. Welcome back to Screentime. Now, I hope you've packed your bags last night, pre-flight, because it's 0 hour, 9 AM, and time to talk about Rocketman.
I could hear the whole tune in my head. It was all there, I could see all the notes, and I just had to get it out.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside.
What did you say your name was again?
My name is...
Reggie!
Reginald Dwight.
Reginald? That's my granddad's name.
So how does a fat boy from nowhere get to be a soul man?
You gotta kill the person you were born to be in order to become the person you want to be.
I'm thinking of changing my name to Elton.
Now, there's a sense in which I've been waiting my entire adult life for a movie about Elton John. And yet, after seeing Rocketman, I'm left wondering whether the kind of fan that I am, namely the kind that keeps a total of 21.5 hours of music by the man on their iPod, is really the ideal audience for this movie. Now, I tend to love musical movies, whether it's an actual concert film, a dramatised biography, or simply a great story told with the help of songs. Two of the brightest cinematic highlights of the last 20 years for me have been Moulin Rouge and The Greatest Showman. I'm also a big fan of Ray, starring Jamie Foxx, the Beatles' Fantasia Across the Universe, as well as the very recent and very successful Bohemian Rhapsody. With Rocketman attempting to blast its way into a cinematic environment where each of these works, not to mention all of Elton's music and much real-life footage, exists and can be easily accessed, it just feels to me that what director Dexter Fletcher and his team have delivered here is, well, just not quite special enough to be worthy of its amazing subject, the one and only songwriting team of Elton John and Bernie Taupin. It's not just that I came away feeling as though I hadn't learned a whole lot more about the man than what I either already knew or could have basically guessed. It's also the suspicion I have that stories of a life such as Elton's are better suited to being told in a documentary, or at least a TV miniseries format, if we're to get any serious degree of insight into a person who is still very much alive and contributing to the world. The Rocketman experience does feature plenty of visual colour and physical movement. The costume design is spot on, and sexuality is not something that the filmmakers shy away from. Dexter Fletcher seems to be trying really hard to craft a visual equivalent to the special brand of magic that Elton would generate whenever he performed. Unfortunately, part of the problem for me was Taron Egerton, who manages to look and act a lot like the man he's playing, but in my opinion can't manage to sound much like Elton when he sings, which for me is a problem, even if not a fatal one. The choreography also seemed more messy than impressive, while the decision to make the movie a full-blown musical of the old school, in the sense that its characters sing Elton and Bernie's songs, sometimes with the lyrics altered, in order to communicate their inner thoughts, was an approach that results in mixed success at best. Maybe it was just that my expectations were insanely high, but Rocketman the movie felt to me like a competent but relatively routine effort that entertains passably for a couple of hours, but somehow doesn't quite capture the stellar qualities of the man at its centre. I imagine it might be interesting to speak to anyone who was, say, half my age, and who knew very little of the Elton mania that gripped the world in the 1970s, but was intrigued enough to check this new movie out. As it stands, despite my disappointments, I'll give Rocketman a Screentime rating of 6 out of 10 for still managing to be better than your average movie experience. Today, we're going to look at world cinema with a film called Never Look Away.
Arbeitet an eurem Handwerk. In den Dienst am Volk.
Hilft das dem Arbeiter?
Glaub mir, es stimmt alles nicht, was ich da gemalt habe.
Dein Schwiegervater?
Das ist nicht die Erbmasse, die ich unseren Nachkommen wünsche.
Kann er uns nicht einfach in Ruhe lassen?
Was?
Now, can a 3-hour-long film from Germany set during the Nazi and communist eras actually form the basis of an entertaining love story? One in which political and philosophical content can coexist with torrid love scenes and ghastly acts of evil? Well, the writer, producer, director of Never Look Away, Florian Henkel von Donnersmarck, proves it to be possible by bringing a painter's eye and an unabashed love for broad strokes to a story that is serious-minded yet at times grandly melodramatic. It's also passionately sexy and warmly romantic, with a level of ambition and fearlessness that commands one's attention and makes the running time fly past. Now, Kurt Barnett, played as an adult by Tom Schilling, has been encouraged from a young age by his free-spirited but troubled aunt, played by Saskia Rosendahl, to see the beauty in truth and the truth in beauty. He clearly displays the makings of a potentially significant artist, but Kurt and his family must first find their way through the hellish maze of terrible consequences inflicted on their country by the destructive philosophies of the Nazi Party. Now, the makers of Never Look Away were inspired by the life story of a real artist, one who shall go unnamed here, partly because awareness of the movie's specific inspiration is not necessary to enjoy the experience, and partly because the artist in question has basically condemned the movie's existence. Regardless of its historical accuracy or otherwise, the movie knows how to grip an audience over a generous length of time. Max Richter's music is a tremendous asset in capturing our emotions, particularly in scenes that involve Kurt's eventual artistic inspiration or epiphany. Caleb Deschanel's Oscar-nominated cinematography at times takes on the qualities that were captured on canvas in their day by the old masters. In this way, the level of nudity on display, while powerful in both the dramatic and erotic sense, is also made to feel natural and appropriate in context. Now, despite the many achievements that make it largely a pleasure to watch, there are also elements that weaken the overall impact of Never Look Away. Heavy-handed choices in scripting, direction, scoring, editing and lighting leave the character of Nazi eugenicist Professor Carl Sieband radiating similar vibes to those of a silent cinema moustache-twirling heavy that the audience can happily hiss at, despite the admirably restrained work of actor Sebastian Koch. Yes, Nazism fully deserves to be portrayed as the abomination that it was, and is, but surely this fact can still be communicated, even while leaving room for a bit more nuance and dimensionality to the professor's character. There are also stretches during the epic runtime of the film where lead actor Schilling, though handsome and highly watchable, as well as being a basically competent performer, is significantly overshadowed by those around him in ways that don't seem intentional or helpful towards our understanding of the movie's protagonist. Just because every artist starts with a blank canvas doesn't mean the artist himself has to seem like one. Now, Schilling just can't quite match the quiet expertise of Sebastian Koch, nor the radiant beauty and magnetism of Paula Beer in the role of Kurt's sweetheart. One especially wishes that she and her character had been given more screen time in the film's last hour. Now, it's great to see that enterprising distributors and festival programmers have, for the second year in a row, made all 5 eventual Oscar nominees in the Best Foreign Language Film category available to view on Adelaide's big screens. Never Look Away might be the most flawed of the 5 nominees, but it's still an impressive, satisfying cinematic achievement, as well as a very solid bet for anyone who appreciates an artistic, historical, romantic, war-themed family saga that is unashamedly aiming to broadly entertain as well as to inform. I give Never Look Away a screen time rating of 7 out of 10.
Sieh nicht weg.
Nicht wegsehen.
Now it's time to take a trip to the country music that is, with Wild Rose.
Bet you're gonna miss me.
Keep your foot still, please.
You're gonna be the next Dolly Parton!
Your Lordship, Miss Harlan has put her childish ways behind her. Her children are living with her once again.
Do you miss me?
She is a promising young country singer.
I'm trying to get to Nashville.
Well, you better mind your tab doesn't go off when you're going through security.
Now, it's easy to suspect that the latest entry in the string of aspiring entertainer stories might have been held back from release after premiering almost a year ago until the buzz around a certain Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga movie had died down a little. Now, those who take a punt on this new offering from the UK are likely to find it matching, in most respects, the standard of any Hollywood film along similar lines. Now, there are certainly elements common to both A Star is Born and Wild Rose, but one of the key differences between them is that the protagonist of Wild Rose is almost her own antagonist as well, her own worst enemy. Now, living with a nighttime curfew and an ankle bracelet after her recent release from prison, mother of two, Rose Lynn, battles what would seem to be an innate irresponsibility, not to mention other factors that make her quest for success in the world of country music seem unlikely at best. Rose Lynn also differs from A Star is Born's heroine in that she finds support, whether financial, emotional, or simply child-minding, from the women around her, rather than from an older male patron whose tragic arc becomes the focal point of the film. Now, Nicole Taylor's screenplay for Wild Rose may be nothing particularly original, but it is gratifyingly deft and complex in its depiction of flawed individuals and their imperfect relations with people around them, such as family members, employers, even perfect strangers. Issues of division along class and racial lines are subtly sketched in rather than laid on thickly. Now, the actresses in all three central roles, they do a collectively superb job of drawing us into the world of Wild Rose and giving it credibility. Jessie Buckley's flint-edged Rose Lynn is far from a saint, but she gets the audience on her side and rooting for her to triumph against the odds. Julie Walters, playing Rose Lynn's mother, delivers one of her finest performances, and that's saying quite a lot for Julie Walters. And while the always delightful Sophie Okonedo is an asset to any project she appears in, and here she delivers another excellent portrayal in the role of Rose Lynn's well-heeled friend and boss. Director Tom Harper, not to be confused with Tom Hooper, has crafted a show business story with more edge and grit than most, rather like the work of Mike Leigh or Ken Loach, but with a pleasing sense of optimism that British realist cinema rarely lets in. Buy a ticket to Wild Rose and let it make you feel good. I give Wild Rose a screen time rating of 7 out of 10. Thanks so much for tuning in to Screentime today. Now, if you've seen the movie yourself and you'd like to leave a comment, please feel free to do so down below. And if you want to subscribe to our channel, then you'll get new reviews weekly. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching.